If you feel lost, overwhelmed, or invisible, maybe you're not meant to be seen right now. Maybe you're meant to transform. We live in a world that rewards noise, speed, and constant presence. Visibility became a requirement. Availability became a habit. But prolonged exposure has a cost. When you stay visible for too long, clarity fades. You stop choosing and start reacting. You lose contact with who you are when no one is watching. This isn't about escape. It's about stepping away from the version of yourself that keeps repeating the same patterns. Most people don't feel lost because they lack ideas or ambition. They feel lost because their best plans never leave their mind. There are changes you've considered for years. Decisions you revisit mentally, but never embody. Not because you don't care, but because constant movement feels safer than stillness. Busyness becomes protection. Distraction becomes a socially acceptable delay. You wait for the right conditions, and over time, waiting becomes the condition. Friedrich Nietzsche suggested that much of human suffering doesn't come from life itself, but from living far below one's own potential. The distance between who you are and who you know you could become slowly turns into frustration. So you stay available. You stay responsive. You keep engaging with everything, except the parts of yourself that require confrontation. As long as life stays loud and fast, real change remains postponed. What it really means to disappear. In modern culture, creating distance is often associated with avoidance or weakness. But psychologically and philosophically, intentional withdrawal has always been part of transformation. Constant visibility shapes identity through reaction. Behavior adjusts to feedback, expectations, and comparison. Over time, decisions stop reflecting values and start reflecting pressure. Here, the shift means reducing external influence to regain authorship over your choices. It's a deliberate reduction of stimulation so patterns can be observed instead of repeated. Carl Jung described this stage as essential to individuation, the process of becoming a whole and self-directed person. Without distance from social roles and validation, people don't choose identities, they inherit them. This explains why so many plans never move past intention. Most people try to change themselves without changing the conditions that shape them. As long as the environment reinforces old behaviors, the mind resists transformation. That interruption breaks the loop. It creates a temporary change in context, one that exposes the gap between intention and behavior. In this quieter setting, procrastination becomes understandable, avoidance becomes visible, and goals stop feeling abstract and start revealing emotional weight. This stage isn't permanent. It's transitional. A strategic pause designed for reflection, restructuring, and choice. Without it, growth stays superficial. With it, change becomes deliberate and sustainable. Understanding the idea of intentional distance is not enough. If nothing changes in how your days are structured, clarity fades and old patterns return. Disappearing only works when daily behavior is reorganized. This is not about isolation or doing less. It's about creating a temporary structure where execution becomes unavoidable. The first step is deciding what will be reduced during this period. This includes constant exposure to information, unnecessary conversations, and habits that fragment attention. The goal is not discipline, but lowering the number of inputs competing for your energy. As long as attention is constantly pulled in too many directions, focus will remain unstable. Next, one priority must be selected. Not a category of goals, but a single area that has been postponed the longest. This could be physical health, a professional project, emotional regulation, or skill development. Progress does not come from working on many things lightly, but from working on one thing consistently. Once that area is chosen, action must be defined in behavioral terms. Not intentions or outcomes, but actions that can be performed regardless of motivation. For example, instead of improving health, the action becomes a specific daily movement routine. Instead of working on a project, it becomes a fixed time block where one concrete task is executed. The action should be small enough that resistance has little room to grow. This action is then placed at the same time each day. Consistency in timing matters more than duration or intensity. When the brain knows exactly when action will happen, it stops negotiating. Execution becomes routine rather than emotional. During this phase, optimization is avoided. There is no constant learning, adjusting, or searching for better methods. The focus is repetition, not improvement. Improvement comes later, after consistency is established. Disappearing also means limiting evaluation. Progress is not measured by visible results at first, but by showing up and completing the action. This is critical, especially for mental and emotional changes, where results are often subtle and delayed. As days pass, resistance decreases. The nervous system adapts to the new structure. Action stops feeling threatening and starts feeling normal. This is where identity begins to shift. You no longer experience yourself as someone who plans change, but as someone who practices it. Eventually, the structure replaces motivation. Behavior continues even on low-energy days, stressful days, or unclear days. This is when change becomes stable across all areas of life, not because conditions are perfect, but because the system supports action. This is what disappearing is meant to create. A temporary reduction of noise so that consistent behavior can take root. When you return to full visibility, you don't return with explanations or promises. You return with a different way of operating. Disappearing is not the transformation itself. It is the environment that allows transformation to happen. The comeback. The comeback is not an announcement. It's the natural result of a system that has already been working. After a period of reduced exposure and focused execution, re-entry happens quietly. There is no need to explain what changed, because behavior already reflects it. The return is not about visibility. It's about stability. What defines the comeback is selectivity. Attention is no longer available by default. You engage with fewer things, but with more intention. Requests are filtered, commitments are chosen, not accumulated. The structure built during disappearance remains in place. The same daily actions continue at the same time, regardless of external demands. Visibility is added on top of the system, not allowed to replace it. This is critical. Most people lose progress when they return because they abandon the structure that created it. The comeback works only when the foundation stays intact. Energy is different now. Not higher, but cleaner. Less is wasted on reaction, explanation, or comparison. Decisions feel simpler because priorities are already defined by action, not thought. Externally, life may look similar. Internally, the operating system has changed. You respond instead of react. You choose instead of accommodate. You move without needing urgency to push you forward. Confidence is no longer performed. It's functional. It comes from evidence. From showing up consistently when no one was watching. The comeback is not about proving growth. It's about protecting it. You don't return to catch up. You return already moving. And because the system is in place, progress continues even when life becomes loud again. That's the difference. The world no longer dictates your pace. Your structure does. This is what makes the comeback durable. Not motivation, not inspiration, but a way of operating that doesn't depend on either. The return is quiet. The results are not. Thanks for watching, and if this video resonates with you, disappear long enough to become the person you've always known you could be.